Welcome back, guys, and how are we doing today? So it is our Monday morning meta update, tier list included, what decks are topping the most, and is anyone really surprised by what is happening? Well, we have up on the screen right now last week's tops. This is what we knew up through last week, with Kashtira being number 1 at 38%, Branded 14%, Labrynth 9, swordsoul 7, spright 7, runick 4, mathmech 3, flow 2, and then the other being 16%. 1 week further into the format as it develops a bit more, what is going on? Well, let's go on and take a look on into that. Kashtira at about 33%, so they did drop about 5%. I think people are starting to figure out the deck and play other decks and just naturally know a little bit better how to interact with the deck, and it is showing. Branded despia is at 15%, so they're still holding right in that same general area. Spright, however, up to 10%, so Spright is kind of showing that maybe they're a better deck than people originally gave them credit for. People are starting to figure the deck out, and it is seeing more success now. Swordsoul at 8%, Labrynth drops a little to 8%, mathmech at 4%, runick still at 3%, Flandries still at 2%, so not a whole lot changes at the top other than Spright going from 5th to 3rd best deck and kind of saying, hey, we don't need elf, we're still a good deck. What else is going on though? Because we do see the other category still at 16%. What other decks are topping? All of them. All of the other decks are topping. At least that is what it feels like. We have Rika with 4, Dragons with 3. I don't know if it's really right to call it Dragon Link anymore, but Dragons at 3, Dark World at 3, Punk Therion with 3, Marincess with 3. Tearlaments does have 2. Sisters, Traptrix are ready. Traptrix is another deck that I expect to see continue to move up this chart. By the end of this coming weekend, I wouldn't be surprised if they're at the top of the other category. And then in the coming weeks to see them move on up into the actual pie chart. Virtual World, Dinosaur, and at Ignister, can't even say that right now, and at Ignister all each have 2 as well. And then we have our one-ofs of Spellbook Dogmatica, Crystal Beast, Scareclaw, Blackwings, Sun Avalon Adventure, Altergeist, Ancient Warrior, Plunder Adventure, Mechanical Libromancer, Sky Striker is still there, Draco Slayer, Heroes, Heroes topped again, and Madolche, the deck that just seems to always get like one top. Every format, there's one Madolche. So there's a lot of decks that can see success right now, and going back to the overall top chart, I think this is a pretty healthy format. Like, people can say whatever they will, but I don't think the format's that bad or toxic. The power level's much lower than last format, and there's a good diversity. Like, the top deck takes up a 1/3 of the pie chart, yes, but that's not really that much in the grand scheme of things, especially when you got 2 other very viable decks obviously right there, and even Swordsoul and Labrynth are both pretty viable. Keeping in mind this is the YCS and regional tops, so everything we can find, if you know, if you go to a regional and you know the top 8 breakdown, feel free to come say, you know, hey, just so you know, these are the decks that did this, via Discord, Facebook, anything. I'm pretty active in all of the communities when I try to put these lists together, and it takes a lot of time. So if you can like, share, subscribe, comment down below. Let's go ahead and keep making these lists as good as we can. What decks are winning though? We know which decks are topping. Well, this is where it starts to get a little out of hand. Kashtira winning 48% of the events that we have found so far. Despia and Spright each with 4 wins. In other words, 25, or not 25%, I can't see from here, 15% maybe. When I record these videos, it is very small on my screen. Kashtira though with 13, Despia and Spright each with 4, Swordsoul and mathmech each with 2, Labrynth and Naturia Runick each have 1 top as well. If we put all this information into a tier list, like not a I think this deck goes here tier list, but rather a, you know, these are the facts, this is what the decks are doing, this is the tier list, here it is. So tier 1, 10% up to 64.9%. So 65% being a tier 0 format, which we just got out of. Tier 1, 10 to 64.9%. Kashtira, branded despia, and spright does hit that 10% mark. So spright up into tier 1. Tier 1.5 being 5 to 9.9%. Swordsoul and labrynth. I've seen a tier list where like tier 1.5, these are supposed to be decks that are just outside of tier 1 but definitely better than the other decks, and I saw one where there's like 20 tier 1.5 decks. No there's not. There can't be. Like, you can't have that many decks topping and doing that good. There's not enough percentage out there. Like, you can't have multiple tier 1 decks, 20 tier 1.5 decks, 20 tier 2 decks. Like, that's just not how the game works. You gotta go and be a little more realistic with it. Tier 2 being 2 to 4.9%. Mathmech, Naturia, Runick. You could say Runick in general because Runick has one extra top here. Naturia Runick has 8 out of the 9, but there was a Runick stun at the YCS that also topped, so there are technically one extra Runick here, but Naturia Runick being basically the variant to go to other than Spright. Spright does have some Runick. I think that it's only fair to put our little mole cricket up there. Flanderies also in the tier 2 category. We have our rogue with Rika, which is Rika's one top away from moving into tier 2, so do keep that in mind. Dragons, Punk, Dark World, and Marine Cess each all 2 wins away. Once you hit 5, like 5 out of 250 total tops. There was 242 tops at the time of recording this video. Recorded, so yeah, we're gonna say recorded a whole bunch of times apparently. Those decks each need 2, but 242. If you have 5 tops out of 250, that would be 2% for those who need a quick math lesson. Trap Tricks at 2. I kind of expect by the end of this week to hit probably 300 total tops at least. I know in stateside there aren't any regionals this weekend, but that doesn't mean there aren't any globally. So I do expect Trap Tricks to get another top or 2, and there's still a few regionals from the past weekend that we're trying to piece together the last couple tops, and we will continue checking for them as time goes on. Tier Limits, Virtual World, Exosisters, Dino, Adagnister, those were all of our multiple tops. And then from Sky Striker through Ancient Warriors, you can see all of our one-offs. They're just decks that have topped, and if your deck is not on this chart, I am sorry about that, but they are in the everything else category, and they belong there because they have not topped. If they have not topped, well, they're not getting into this chart yet. Go top with them, then we can talk. Thanks for watching, guys. Remember, come back next week. We'll show you guys an updated list because we already went from this to somewhere on here to this, and I'm curious to see where we go from here. I think the format for the most part is kind of holding true. I think Kashtira is going to stay in that 30% range. Despia and Spright both in that like 10 to 20%. Swordsoul and Labrynth, both pretty good decks as well. We are going to start up our How to Beat series once again because we did get some requests for it. Obviously starting with decks that are on this pie chart, and if we get through it and the demand is still there, we will go ahead and start going through decks on the other list. But yeah, that's going to be a little bit, guys, because again, there's a lot of other decks. We'd probably run Trap Tricks first, then maybe Dark World, or the kind of decks that maybe other people aren't covering. But again, guys, thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe, comment down below. Come play at Dragon Rider Games, whether you want to look at this one or even up higher there, for the best online testing, bar none. Get featured on DB Grinder, get featured on Yada, play against people like me. Maybe, don't worry, I'm a free win. Yeah, it's a lot of fun, guys. Come check it on out.